What if everything you have been told about heart disease is wrong? What if the condition that kills more people than any other disease in America is not something you must learn to live with, but something you can actually reverse? For decades, cardiologists have told heart patients the same depressing story. Your arteries are blocked. You need a stent. You need bypass surgery. You will be on medications for the rest of your life. The disease progresses. You manage it. You do not cure it. This has been the accepted reality of modern cardiology. Operate, medicate. Accept decline. Then one surgeon challenged everything. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., a former internationally renowned surgeon and researcher at the Cleveland Clinic, posed a revolutionary question. What if we have been treating the symptom and ignoring the cause? What if heart disease is not a mechanical problem requiring stents and bypass surgery, but a nutritional problem requiring dietary change? What if the disease can not only be prevented and stopped, but completely reversed? The answer comes from a groundbreaking 20-year nutritional study, one of the longest and most rigorous of its kind ever conducted. The patients who participated in this study had advanced coronary artery disease. Some had undergone multiple bypass operations. Many had been told by their cardiologists they had less than a year to live. Within months of following a plant-based, oil-free diet with strict elimination of animal products and nuts, they began to improve dramatically. 20 years later, they remain completely free of symptoms. Their arteries have healed. Their disease has reversed. They have beaten the death sentence they were given. In this video, you will discover what heart disease really is. You will learn the exact mechanism that causes it. You will understand why conventional cardiology has failed to address the root cause. And most importantly, you will learn the specific dietary protocol that has proven it can reverse even severe heart disease. This is not theory. This is not a fad diet. This is science backed by decades of clinical evidence and documented angiographic proof. The mechanism nobody discusses. Most cardiologists never explain what heart disease actually is. They talk about blockages. They talk about cholesterol. They talk about risk factors. But they do not explain the underlying mechanism. Understanding this mechanism changes everything. Inside every blood vessel in your body, lining the innermost wall of the artery, there is a delicate cellular layer 1 cell thick. This is the endothelium. It is the guardian of your blood vessels. It is your life jacket against cardiovascular disease. The endothelium manufactures a truly magic molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is remarkable. It keeps blood flowing smoothly and prevents it from becoming sticky or clotted. It is the strongest dilator of blood vessels in the entire body, widening the arteries to maximize blood flow. It inhibits the formation of blockages or plaques. It destroys inflammation. It prevents high blood pressure, keeps your arteries young and flexible. Essentially, nitric oxide is the ultimate protector of your cardiovascular system. But here is the devastating truth. Every single meal of processed oils, dairy products, and meat injures these endothelial cells. Over a lifetime of eating the Western diet, people have progressively destroyed their endothelium's capacity to produce nitric oxide. By the time they develop symptoms of heart disease, their endothelial cells have been so injured and incapacitated that they can no longer protect the arteries. This is how coronary artery disease develops. Not from cholesterol itself, but from the endothelial injury that allows cholesterol to penetrate the arterial wall. When the endothelium is injured, cholesterol finds cracks and fissures in the cellular fortress. The cholesterol embeds itself in the arterial wall. This triggers oxidative inflammation. Foam cells form. A plaque accumulates. The blockage grows. Eventually, the plaque ruptures. The artery becomes completely blocked. Blood cannot flow. The heart muscle is starved of oxygen. A heart attack occurs. Or the person survives with severe angina and the constant threat of sudden death. This entire cascade of events has one cause: endothelial injury from the Western diet. Not genetics, not stress, not aging. the Western diet of processed oils, dairy, and meat. This is the missing piece that conventional cardiology refuses to acknowledge. The revolution that changed lives in 1985, Dr. Esselstyn began an experiment. He took a small group of patients with advanced coronary artery disease. These were not people with mild disease. These were people with severe, progressive disease despite aggressive conventional treatment. The kind of patients who had exhausted what traditional cardiology could offer. He placed them on a plant-based, oil-free diet with complete elimination of animal products and nuts. Nothing else. No new medications, no surgeries, just food. His hypothesis was simple but radical. If endothelial injury causes heart disease, then removing the foods that injure the endothelium would stop the disease progression and allow the body to heal itself. The results were astonishing. Within weeks, angina disappeared. Within months, blood flow to the heart improved. Energy levels increased. Blood pressure normalized. Erectile function returned. Symptoms that had plagued them for years vanished. Then came the proof. After 5 years on the program, the average total cholesterol of the group dropped from 246 milligrams per deciliter to just 137. This is the most profound drop in cholesterol ever documented in medical literature in a study of this type. Cholesterol dropped to a level found in cultures where heart disease is essentially non-existent. The most striking evidence came from angiograms. These are X-ray images that show the coronary arteries. The angiograms of adherent patients showed something previously thought impossible. The arteries were widening. The blockages were regressing. The disease was reversing. In the years before entering the study, these 17 patients had experienced 49 cardiac events combined. They had undergone multiple bypass operations and angioplasties. After beginning the plant-based, oil-free diet with absolute commitment, there were no more cardiac events in the group. For 12 years, nothing. 0 cardiac events. Complete arrest of disease progression. Moreover, a number of patients who had been told they had less than a year to live survived well beyond that. One patient survived more than 12 years on the program. Another made a full recovery and returned to activities they had abandoned years before. The science of healing. Why does this work when every other approach has failed? Because it addresses causation, not just symptoms. It removes the foods that injure the endothelium and allows the body's natural healing mechanisms to restore damaged arteries. When a person stops consuming oils, dairy, and meat and begins eating a whole food, plant-based diet, something profound happens at the cellular level. The endothelium begins to recover. The capacity to produce nitric oxide returns. This happens because plant foods contain compounds that stimulate endothelial production of nitric oxide. Green leafy vegetables are especially powerful. Kale, spinach, arugula, Swiss chard, collard greens, beet greens, mustard greens. These are not optional luxuries. They are medicine. Dr. Esselstyn recommends consuming cooked greens 6 times per day for those with heart disease. This consistent consumption of greens creates massive stimulation of nitric oxide production. The science explains why. Children never have heart attacks because they have extremely high levels of nitric oxide production. But as people age, nitric oxide production declines. The Western diet accelerates this decline dramatically by injuring the endothelium. But here's the remarkable part. This decline can be stopped and even reversed. By consuming specific plant foods, the endothelium recovers the capacity to produce nitric oxide at higher levels. The arteries regain their flexibility and health. Disease progression halts. Reversal occurs. Studies also show the mechanism more deeply. Researchers discovered that animal products containing lecithin and carnitine are metabolized to produce a compound called trimethylamine oxide, or TMA. This compound causes vascular injury. But people consuming a strict plant-based diet develop no TMAO production because they do not have the bacteria capable of creating it from animal products. Their blood vessels remain protected. What you must eliminate the diet requires absolute commitment. No moderation, no cheating. Complete elimination of foods that injure the endothelium. Eliminate all animal products. This includes meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and all dairy products. Not reduced, not limited. Completely eliminated. The endothelium is so damaged in heart patients that even small amounts of these foods continue the injury. Eliminate all oils. This is perhaps the most controversial recommendation because oils are marketed as heart-healthy. Even olive oil must go. Oils are 100% fat and contain no fiber, no vitamins, no minerals. They damage endothelial cells and impair nitric oxide production. Instead, consume the natural fats found in whole grains and legumes. Eliminate nuts and avocados. This is unique to Dr. Esselstyn's protocol for heart disease patients, because nuts and avocados are high in fat, and because they are addictive and make it hard for people to adhere to a low-fat diet. They are eliminated for those with diagnosed heart disease. The strictness is intentional. Dr. Esselstyn has stated that because his protocol works so well, he has not wanted to change a successful formula. For those without heart disease seeking prevention, a small amount of nuts and avocados can be included. Eliminate refined carbohydrates. White flour products, processed foods, and added sugars all contribute to endothelial damage and inflammation. Eliminate processed foods. If the ingredients list is a paragraph long, it is damaging your endothelium. Eliminate caffeinated coffee. People consuming caffeinated coffee show evidence of injured endothelial function compared to those who drink decaffeinated coffee. What you must consume the diet is abundant with foods that restore endothelial health and stimulate nitric oxide production. Whole grains, oatmeal, brown rice, quinoa, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, and rolls. These foods are nutrient-dense, fiber-rich, and contain compounds that enhance endothelial function. Legumes, beans, lentils, and peas. 101 different varieties are available. These are protein-rich, low in fat, and contain powerful antioxidants. A spectrum of vegetables: red, yellow, green, purple, orange, and every color in between. Root vegetables. Leafy greens consumed cooked 6 times per day for heart disease patients. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. The diversity of colors ensures diverse antioxidant and micronutrient protection. White and sweet potatoes. Carbohydrate sources that are nutrient-dense and do not harm the endothelium. Fruits, all varieties. Berries are especially powerful due to their antioxidant content. Herbs and spices. For flavor, without oil or salt. The transformation that seems impossible, consider Joe Crow, a specific patient from the study. In November 1996, while operating, Dr. Crow experienced a sudden, severe headache followed immediately by chest pain radiating up his arm, shoulder, and into his jaw. He was having a heart attack. He was only 44 years old. He had no family history of heart disease, was not overweight or diabetic, and did not have high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Yet he had been struck down hard. Dr. Crow came to see Dr. Esselstyn and agreed to follow the plant-based, oil-free diet. He stuck to the plan rigorously. Within time, his total blood cholesterol dropped to 89 milligrams per deciliter. And his LDL cholesterol dropped from 98 milligrams per deciliter to 38 milligrams per deciliter. About 2.5 years after adopting the diet, Dr. Crow was exceptionally busy professionally and under considerable stress. He noted a return of some chest discomfort. His cardiologists, worried about the recurrence of angina, asked for more tests. On the day of his follow-up angiogram, when Dr. Esselstyn met with Dr. Crow after work, he saw moisture in his eyes. Dr. Crow declared, "You saved my life. It is gone. It is not there anymore. Something lethal is gone. My follow-up angiogram was normal." This transformation occurred without medications, surgery, or any intervention other than dietary change. His endothelium had recovered. His body had healed itself. Nearly 10 years later, they wondered how the Esselstyns had done it. How they had managed to completely change the way they eat. The paradigm that medicine refuses to accept. The most frustrating aspect of Dr. Esselstyn's work is the resistance it has faced from conventional cardiology. Despite 20 years of evidence, despite angiographic proof of disease reversal, despite patients who have survived well beyond their death sentence, most cardiologists continue recommending stents and bypass surgeries as the primary treatment. Why? Cardiovascular medicine practitioners receive essentially no nutrition education in medical school or postgraduate training. They lack not only the skill set needed to help their patients modify their diets, but also a basic awareness that plant-based nutrition can halt and reverse coronary artery disease. Beyond education, there is another issue. The research shows that stenting in stable patients is not superior to optimal medical therapy. A major trial called the COURAGE trial proved this definitively. Patients receiving stents had the same outcomes as patients receiving optimal medical therapy and lifestyle modification. The stents did not save lives. They just generated costs and complications. The impossible becomes routine. Dr. Esselstyn tells the story of his oldest patient, an 87-year-old man who had been told he needed bypass surgery. He was terrified because bypass requires cutting the patient's sternum and sawing it in half. He was convinced he would die on the operating table. He came to see Dr. Esselstyn and agreed to try the plant-based oil-free diet instead of surgery. He was terrified. He was desperate. He had nothing to lose because surgery seemed like certain death anyway. What happened was remarkable. On the diet alone, his symptoms improved. His exercise capacity increased. His angina disappeared. He never had the surgery. He lived productive years, likely far longer than he would have surviving bypass surgery and its complications. This is the transformation that awaits when the endothelium is allowed to heal. The body is miraculous in its capacity to repair itself when given the right nutrition and freed from the foods that injure it. The revolution just beginning. Dr. Esselstyn argues that we are on the cusp of a seismic revolution in health. This revolution will not come from another pill or procedure or operation. It will come from nutritional literacy. When the public understands that food causes disease and that food cures disease, chronic illness will be annihilated. Heart disease does not have to exist. In cultures that consume whole food, plant-based diets, coronary heart disease is virtually non-existent. The Tarahumara natives of Mexico, the Highlanders of Papua New Guinea, rural China, Central Africa. Millions of people on this entire planet will never have a heart attack, and the common denominator is that they are largely plant-based eaters. We have created an epidemic of heart disease through our dietary choices. We can end it through our dietary choices. The choice is ours. For those currently suffering from heart disease, the choice is especially clear. Continue down the path of stents, bypass surgeries, and medications that have not a single thing to do with the cause of the disease, or change your diet and activate your body's natural capacity for healing. For those without symptoms of heart disease, the message is equally important. The Western diet is injuring your endothelium right now. You are developing atherosclerosis silently. By age 17, most Americans have early signs of coronary artery disease, even if they have no symptoms. You can prevent this by adopting a plant-based, oil-free diet now. Dr. Esselstyn has shown that coronary artery disease is what he calls a toothless paper tiger that need never ever exist, and if it does exist, it need never ever progress. The power is in your hands. The cure is on your plate. The impossible is now proven 20 years of research. 0 cardiac events in adherent patients. Angiographic proof of disease reversal. Cholesterol drops of the magnitude never before documented. Patients told they had less than a year to live, surviving more than 12 years. These are not opinions. These are facts. These are measurements. The evidence is irrefutable. Heart disease can be prevented. Heart disease can be reversed. All it requires is the willingness to change what you eat. Your life depends on it. Not your life in theory. Your actual physical life. The choice to eat foods that injure your endothelium or foods that heal it. The choice to accept conventional cardiology's defeatist message or to embrace the revolutionary truth that your body can heal itself. The revolution is ready. Are you?